Georgia made a huge move on the field and on the recruiting trail. Georgia announced on Saturday that veteran defensive backs coach and ace recruiter Travaris Robinson is joining the staff in Athens. Now, I got Dawgs HQ insider Jake Rowe on the show to take us behind the scenes of a hire that could shake things up in SEC recruiting. But first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. Dog fans, we need you. It's an important offseason, and we got you covered. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Jake Rowe from Dawgs HQ for more. Now, Jake, we'll get to the big hire and the impact it'll have here in just a minute, but let's talk about some of the most important targets that were on campus this weekend. None other than five-star defensive lineman Elijah Griffin, the number one defensive lineman in America for the 25 class, and he is from Savannah, Georgia. Is it time for the Dogs to close on this one? Who's the biggest competition here, Jake?
Looks like Clemson, I would say right now, Josh. Georgia's in good shape. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Georgia's been in good shape for a while. But we all know we're in a day and age now. We're being in good shape for a while, and $1.25, $2 will buy you a Coke. All right, so Georgia does have to kind of close this deal, but listen, it's not going to be over till he signs, and nobody's given up on a prospect like this. And man, I tell you what, it has been a long time since I liked a defensive lineman in the state of Georgia more than I liked Elijah Griffin. I mean, it's 6'5", 285 pounds. There's just some raw tools there. Derek Brown comes to mind. Trent Thompson was a little, I guess, shorter, and injuries kind of ate up his career, but he was kind of in that same mold as well. Elijah Griffin is elite, and I think Georgia really needs to land him in this class. He's the kind of guy that when you start talking about putting together all these elite, putting together these titles and opportunities to win titles, that's the kind of guy you've got to have on the defensive line. And I do think Georgia's in tremendous shape, especially after this past weekend, where I think the Bulldogs may have put some distance between themselves and the rest of the field.
Man, he would be and could be and probably will be the pillar of this Georgia 2025 class at some point, but that point is not just yet. All right, there's one other prospect that I just needed to ask you about, and that's cornerback Chris Ewald, the number 73 prospect overall, and he's from the state of Florida, but he is committed to Michigan, kind of that crown jewel right now of Michigan's 2025 class, and he was in Athens on campus when Georgia announced the news of Travaris Robinson joining the staff, and he had some interesting things to say. Jake, do you think Georgia made up ground in this recruitment, just having him on campus when all this went down?
I think so. I definitely think that Georgia kind of making up ground can sometimes be a little bit of a nebulous term, but I think that Georgia did kind of shake things up a little bit for him. Obviously getting him on campus is huge, right? I mean, that's step one. And then when you can kind of, bounce in and add a guy like, Travaris Robinson, when you can kind of put that trio of guys in his line of sight there with Dante Williams, with with T-Rob, with Will Muschamp remaining on staff. I mean, I definitely think Georgia kind of got his attention there. Michigan won a national championship, doing phenomenal things. But you can tell that Georgia not only just really likes this kid, he doesn't really fit the specific mold that they love at DB, but they're all over him. And, I think you can tell that they like him a lot and that, he likes them a lot to be on campus to begin with. But not only that, I mean, I think this definitely gets his attention.
Yeah, and just being there with all the excitement on campus, it had to be a fun time and something that he'll probably remember moving forward. All right, let's talk some transfer portal. Caleb Downs, that's the big name everyone is waiting on to see whether or not he's going to go in the portal. Kind of tease some stuff on Twitter. Jake, what's your thoughts on Caleb Downs and potentially hitting the portal?
My gut feeling is he doesn't. I think Caleb Downs is the player Caleb Downs is because he's kind of built a little differently than most kids. I mean, not just from a frame perspective or athleticism. I think he's just got a different way of going about things, a different way of looking at things. And honestly, I think, I don't know him all that well. I honestly don't know too much about him, but in talking with people who do know him, I think there's a loyalty there. I expect him to stick with Alabama. And that's not from any inside information on Georgia's part. What I do know is this. Georgia will be aggressive, absolutely aggressive. I'm talking about, claws out, snarling to try and get this kid if he goes into the transfer portal. But ultimately, I don't think he does. I think he stays at Alabama. Right or wrong, good or bad. I think if he's going to enter the transfer portal, I think it's going to be after he has given this new Alabama staff an entire year.
All right, fair enough. Now, what other Alabama transfers, though, do you think Georgia could be in the market for? Like, how about former 2023 five-star cornerback Desmond Ricks?
I don't see that one because Georgia had to work so hard to keep two guys that they really like around, to keep two guys that they just love in Daniel Harris and Julian Humphrey. They kept those guys out of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
I don't see them coming back in and kind of undercutting that effort by adding, somebody out of the transfer portal, even a cornerback. And I think if they were to add a cornerback, I think they would add a guy that they feel like can come in and start and play like immediately right away. Rick's phenomenal talent doesn't bring that element of experience that I feel like Georgia would need at that position. So, I think if you start talking about, who would Georgia be after if they came out of the portal for Alabama? I'm looking defensive line. I'm looking edge. Could you see a Jeremiah Alexander, for instance, or could you see even offensive tackle and Elijah Pritchett? I know when he went into the portal earlier, I know that there was some scuttlebutt about Georgia maybe getting involved there. You could never have enough, really talented offensive linemen. I think you look along the defensive line. Like if Jaheim Otis were to happen to jump in, Georgia would be front and center on that one.
There's definitely
the defensive backfield right now, unless it's Caleb Downs.
Yeah, there's definitely some guys where if they hit the portal, Georgia's going to be all over them. So we'll see what happens, Jake. But first, hey, Georgia fans, let me know. Comment section below. Who do you guys want out of the transfer portal? Is it a Caleb Downs, somebody that's not even in there yet? Or are there some other pieces that you're looking at? Let me know. Comment section below. Jake Rowe, I have a feeling it's going to be a really busy week on Dawgs HQ. Appreciate you dropping by the Inside Scoop.
Always is, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.